Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared and we're about to play Lisboa. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. Feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. Make sure to like and subscribe below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. Also, my copy of the game uses the Kickstarter upgraded components. Lisboa is a heavy Euro game from Vital Lacerda from 2017. The game takes place in Lisboa, Portugal in the 1700s after a massive earthquake wrecked the city, created a tsunami, and burned the city in flames for 3 days. Efforts from the king and prime minister began within a month to rebuild. Players take the role of influential nobles tasked to rebuild Lisboa over a span of 22 years. You'll have to deal with the debris from the earthquake, tsunami, and fires, and work closely with architects, the king, and the marquis. The game has quite a unique look to it, which is immediately apparent. The artwork is based on Portuguese glazed tiles from the 17th century known as azuleos portugueses. Pardon my pronunciation. In the game, you'll be reconstructing Lisboa and its economy by constructing new public buildings and shops downtown. Gather plans from architects, send out state officials, and convince nobles with your influence to help you complete all these tasks. Gain the most points and you'll win. And what better way to represent victory points in this time period than a growing collection of wigs? Before I begin, I'll note that I'm setting up a 3-player game. 2-player games have a few variant setups noted in the rulebook, which I'll cover at the end of the video. First, lay the game board out in the center of the table. Separate out the 4 starting plans, which will have a blue back. Collect the clergy tiles and put them all in the clergy bag. Put a set of 3 royal favor tiles per player in the rubble bag. A set should have 1 of each color. Each player should choose 1 of the 4 available colors and take the player board, a player aid book, 5 rubble set markers, 8 wooden houses, 8 officials, 1 of each good type, and 10 race. Now, players should draw 2 random clergy tiles from the clergy bag. They'll be able to only keep 1 of them. Each player draws 1 random royal favor tile from the bag to start the game with. Now deal out 1 starting plan tile to each player randomly. Any extras should return to the game box. Goods tokens will be kept in stacks in one of these 4 spots. Next to that, your rubble set markers are placed along the top row of this chart. Just below that area are spaces that hold your collected royal favor tiles. At the center of your board, place your starting plan face up on the matching blue or green spot. At the bottom right of the board, place your officials. The houses are placed like this in the area above them. Your starting clergy tile will sit face up in one of the 4 square spaces in the top right corner. Your money can sit next to your board on the right or left. You may want to pause on the screen to see where everything you just gathered goes on your player board. On the main game board, place each player's larger meeple, known as the courtier, in one of the royal court spaces. Each player's scoring disc should be placed on space 5 of the victory point track. Everyone starts with 1 of their officials in the office of the marquis, represented by these spaces underneath the middle picture. Give the first player token to the person who most recently visited Lisboa, or randomize it. Play will go clockwise from the starting player. Place 1 more player disc from everyone on the influence track. The first player should be at 4, then second player at 5, third player at 6, and fourth on 7. Have 1 player shuffle the decree deck and then deal out 8 cards face up along this side of the board. Separate the cards into their own matching color decks. Shuffle each deck and deal 5 blue cards to each player as their starting hand. Return the remaining blue cards to the game box. Place the red cards face down in the event display, separated by the icons on the back, and placed in the matching icon card spaces on the board. You should have 4 stacks of 5 cards. Then flip over and reveal the top card of each deck. Empty the royal favors from the bag from earlier. Place all royal favor tiles in stacks under the character's portrait that matches the color. These are public buildings. Shuffle them all together with the blue side face up. Then create 2 equal stacks, flipping over one stack to show the green side. These stacks sit here next to the board. Move the top tile from each stack onto the game board on the blue and green spaces for the currently available public buildings. Separate the plan tiles into blue and green and create 2 stacks sorted by the number of officials shown. The fewest should be on top. They're located here between and next to the public buildings. This area of the board represents the market prices of goods. Place the goods price markers in the starting price spaces as marked on the track. Place 1 city tile on each colored space on the board here with the half-sized one on the bottom. Create even stacks of city tiles next to these spaces off the board. These are scoring tiles, which depict a number of wigs. Randomly place them in each space at the bottom of the city map. This area in the middle is the church track. Draw 6 clergy tiles from the bag and place them face up on the dark spaces on this track. Place the red cardinal meeple on the track with the influence symbol. It's meant to look like an envelope. Under this track is the treasury track. Place the white treasury marker on space 3. Locate the blue and red ship cards. Depending on player count, you may have to remove some from each color. 3-player games remove 1, 2-player game remove 2. The removed ship cards should return to the box. Stack the blue ship cards on top of the red cards and place it face up here on the board in the shipyard. All remaining money and goods tokens should sit next to the game board as the general supply, also known as the Royal Treasury. These are not meant to be limited, so use a substitute if you happen to run out. Now you're going to simulate the damage from the earthquake. The rubble cubes are color-coded. Red is fire damage, blue is tsunami damage, and brown is earthquake damage. First, put all the cubes in the rubble bag. Then draw and place random cubes from the bag under each column in the downtown map. There are square spaces to indicate where they sit. Next, place 2 random cubes into the 3 other sides of the map on every public building site. Now draw 6 more cubes to create the rubble pile, which will sit to the right of the price track. That completes the game setup. In general, on a player's turn, they first dock any ships they own. Any ships in your portfolio that have all their cargo spaces full and show flipped down goods are returned from sea. Simply remove the goods tokens and put them back in the supply, and the ships are ready to voyage again. Next, players must choose to get 1 gold or take an action by spending a card in their hand. Then draw a new political card from the game board display. Taking 1 gold by discarding a card from your hand is often seen as a last-ditch effort and not ideal. Gold is useful, but the actions you could take are usually more beneficial. Lisboa will have a variable number of rounds, but it's always divided into 2 time periods. Once any player completes 2 sets of rubble in their portfolio, or if 3 of the 4 decks of political cards are empty, the first time period ends at the end of that player's turn. After resolving the change of time periods, play continues round after round until a player has 4 sets of rubble cubes completed in their portfolio, or again, 3 of the 4 political card decks are emptied. After this happens, finish the round, and then every player gets 1 last turn before the end of the game scoring happens. Whoever has the most wigs at the end of the game wins. There are 2 kinds of political cards in the game, nobles and treasury cards. The nobles cards will depict one of the 3 nobles on it. The treasury cards will have treasury icons at the top with various actions represented in the center of the card. You can play one of these cards on your turn if you're choosing to take an action, as opposed to discarding it for gold. A card can either be played in your board area in front of you or to the game board here called the Royal Court. Depending on where you decide to play it, it changes the action it does. So between the 2 types of cards and the 2 places they can be played, you've got 4 options. By playing any card to your personal board, you're growing your business and potential influence. The top and bottom areas of your board can each hold 3 cards at a time. These 6 spots are known as your portfolio. The top area is known as your docks. The bottom area is known as your office. However, at the beginning of the game, you're limited to only 2 cards total in your portfolio in any distribution. Additionally, your warehouse on the left, where goods are stored, may only hold 2 of each type. If you try to play a political card to your portfolio when it's already full, you must first discard a card there. As you gain rubble cubes and gain a full set, you'll gain 1 more card and 1 more good type allowed to be held. When completing a set of rubble cubes, take the top rubble set marker off the board, revealing a +1. Place that marker onto the Marquis de Pombal portrait on the game board. The top 3 spots can hold nobles and ships. The bottom 3 can hold treasury cards. The cards remind you which area they're placed by looking at the gray arrows. The arrows point to the center and get covered up as the card slides underneath your board. Any reward or penalty shown on the arrow is resolved before sliding it under the board. You'll need to spend at least 1 good in order to put a card into your portfolio, so if you don't have a good, you can't play a card here at all. To play a noble to your portfolio, first receive the reward or pay the penalty shown on the bottom of the card. The X icon means you must pay that if you can. Typically, these penalty cards are worth more influence, which is shown at the top of the noble card. Place the noble in one of the top 3 open slots, sliding the arrow underneath the board so it's no longer visible. The influence number at the top of the noble card will add together with other cards in this top row to gain a combined influence when you're allowed to score it. After placing a card, you must take either the sell goods or trade with the noble's actions. I'll explain those in a bit. To play a treasury card to your portfolio, first gain money equal to the value of the treasury. The white treasury marker will be on this track and will indicate an amount. After taking money, move the marker down 1 space on the track. It cannot go lower than the lowest space. Place the card in one of the 3 open slots at the bottom of your board and slide the card under so the treasury icons are now hidden. The treasury cards may also give you an ongoing benefit or discount at the bottom of the card. As long as it's in your portfolio, it will give you its benefits. Now you must take either the sell goods or trade with the noble's actions. Before going over the main actions, I must first explain how influence works. This track on the board represents everyone's influence with the nobles. The lowest is 0 and the highest space is at 10. You move your disc along the track to show gaining and losing influence. If you've maxed out at 10 and gain influence, you instead gain 1 wig per influence. Gaining influence is triggered in 2 main ways: when you build a ship and during church scoring. Sometimes the cardinal meeple will land on or pass over the influence icon on his track. Each player may choose to gain influence if they discard 1 or more of their clergy tiles. Discarding the clergy tiles will gain them points as well, as indicated on the backs of the tokens. Either way, the influence you earn is equal to the total influence numbers at the top of your portfolio from ships and nobles cards. Influence can be spent in 2 different situations. The first is to visit a noble. I'll go over that in detail when I cover the visit a noble action. The second is to spend influence instead of money on hand. For each coin icon you move your disc back to, you may use it for paying money. So if you're at 6 and move it to 2, you may spend 3 race. To sell goods, a ship must be built and have space to hold another good token. Different colored ships hold a different number of goods. Also, you can sell your goods to any player's ship, not just your own. Just move your chosen good from your warehouse to the ship's empty dock space below it. Gain money from the supply equal to the good's current market value, plus modifiers on the ship or on your treasury cards. You can sell as many goods tokens like this as you want, as long as there's space among all the ships in play to do it. Also, as soon as a ship is full of goods, meaning its last available dock space contains a good, it will immediately set sail. Whoever owns the ship will get to flip the goods tokens over and earn 1 wig per newly packed crate, as indicated on the backs. The ship sails away and won't be empty again until the beginning of the ship owner's turn. The nobles will meet with you and do special actions if you pay them with goods. Each of the 3 nobles has 2 state actions below them. During this trade, you may spend 1 or 2 goods to choose 1 or 2 of these 6 actions. Place your good token on the action you're taking. You may not take it again this turn. Gold may be spent for any of the actions. However, the builder also accepts tools, the minister accepts books, and the king accepts cloth. Let's take a look at what each of these 6 actions do. This one allows you to move up to 2 state official meeples of your color to the noble offices. You must place them in different offices. If there are no free spaces for your meeple, you may first move out someone's meeple who has majority in that office. If a tie, move 1 of each tied color. They will sit below the office in what's called the plaza. This is the action to acquire a plan. Placing a good here lets you take the top architect plan from either stack on the board. Place it on your portfolio on the matching color space. You can have as many plans from either color stack that you want at a time. If you place a good here, you may build a ship from the topmost ship cards available in the shipyard. To build a ship, you must pay different goods equal to the hull size of the ship that you're building. You may also replace one of your ships already in your portfolio. If replacing one, you only need to pay the difference in hull sizes to the one you're gaining. The original ship's cargo stays where it is and automatically transfers to the new one. Place your new ship at the top of your portfolio in one of the available spots. If none are available or you've maxed out total cards played, you must discard a card already played in your portfolio to allow room. Tuck the ship card underneath the board to cover the treasury and influence icons at the bottom. Increase the treasury marker by 1 on its track. Now gain influence by adding all the influence numbers at the top of your nobles and ships cards. You can count the new ship's influence number in this calculation. This action allows you to produce goods. Look at the Lisboa map of buildings on the board. For every store you own, you get 1 good of its matching street type. Look at where the door opening is facing. The gold street produces gold, pink produces cloth, brown produces books, and blue produces tools. Any extra goods you cannot hold due to capacity limits are discarded back to the supply. For each type of good you collect during this action, move its marker in the market track down 1 space. This action allows you to meet the cardinal. Simply advance the cardinal meeple on his track clockwise 1 or 2 spaces. He lands only on the gaps between the clergy tiles. You may take either one of the clergy tiles adjacent to his landing space. Your portfolio can only hold 4 clergy tiles at a time. If you have 4 already, you may not take this action. During this action, make note if the cardinal landed on or passed over either the church treasury icon or the church influence icon. The church treasury icon causes the treasury marker to move up the track. The church influence icon triggers influence scoring. Lay down the cardinal meeple to remind you to resolve this at the end of the player's turn. In turn order, starting with the active player, you may choose to gain influence. You must discard at least 1 clergy tile to do this. Gain the wigs shown on the back, then gain influence on the influence track like normal, equal to the sum of the influence of your nobles and ships in your portfolio. Placing a good here lets you take a royal favor token of a color you don't already have. You can only have 1 of each at a time. They are kept on your portfolio board in these spaces. You can use these to follow another player's noble visit on their turn. The next 2 possible main actions on your turn let you play one of your political cards on the game board instead of your personal portfolio board. To visit a noble, choose a noble card in your hand to place on the royal court space of the board. Move your courtier meeple on the card to remind everyone it's your turn. Other players will get a chance to copy your visit, so it can get confusing to remember whose turn it was who started it all. After playing the card, you must pay influence to visit this noble. Check the number of opponent's officials in this noble's office area and check the treasury track. Add up the plus or minus number to the left of the treasury marker to the number of opponent's officials in the office. You must pay that amount of influence to visit this noble this turn. If the sum is less than 0, treat it as 0. Only if you don't have enough influence will you be allowed to pay the difference with wigs. By playing the noble card, you may choose to take one of their 2 state actions without paying a good. Either way, you must take the main noble action. If you cannot perform the noble action, you may not visit the noble at all. Once you've taken your actions, other players may pay a royal favor token of the type you just visited to follow your visit. Players have the option to do this in clockwise order from you. These players simply pay the tile back to its stack and pay the influence required to visit the noble in the same way you did. They're allowed to take only one of the 3 noble actions allowed for this noble. Once everyone has completed their follow or passed on their opportunity to, return your courtier meeple to a space and discard the noble card from the royal court. Play continues clockwise as normal. Now I'll go over each of the 3 noble actions you can take depending on which person's card you played. Playing the builder's card lets you build a store. Take a look at the city map on the right side of the board. You must choose one of the building tiles available on the board and place it on a street, with the store entrance side facing the color that matches what you took. So if you took the building tile from the brown area, you must place it in one of these 2 columns with its entrance notch facing the brown street. Depending on the space you place the tile, you will gain an immediate bonus. It may be a good token, an action, a cardinal meeple movement, influence scoring, money, or rubble cube from the rubble supply pile. After placing the tile and taking the bonus shown, you can take one rubble cube from either the row or column end of that space. Place the rubble you took on your portfolio board at the leftmost empty space of its matching type. Now you must pay for the land. The land's price is equal to the cost shown on the right of the treasury marker, plus the cost of the remaining rubble cubes in both the row and column. Don't count rubble that is on public building spaces. The blue tsunami rubble cubes cost 1 real. The red fire cubes cost 2 reis, and the brown earthquake cubes cost 3 reis. This space on the board reminds you of their costs. You may get discounts based on your current clergy tiles or treasury cards in your portfolio. To show that you own this store, place one of your wooden houses on the tile closest to the entrance of the store. You'll also now gain wigs for building the store. Check for possible public buildings surrounding your chosen location. There could be one at the far left, one at the far right, and one at the top. If any of these show the matching color for the building store type you placed, you may use it to calculate your wigs earned. Multiply the number of public buildings, either 1, 2, or 3, by the large scoring tile number at the bottom of the column you built in. Gain that many wigs immediately on the score track. That ends the action. Taking a look at your portfolio board again, you'll see the bottom right area that contains your wooden houses. There are 3 groups of houses which slowly unlock different benefits for you. Knowing what these are will help you determine which house to use when placing it in the city, manning one of your storefronts just built. The left group has 2 houses. Moving the first one out gives you nothing, but moving the second one out allows you to spend money instead of influence to visit or follow a visit to a noble. The middle grouping of houses contains 3 houses. The first one moved out will let you build a ship for 1 less good. The second gives you nothing extra. However, the third one removed from the board lets you gain ships for free when you take that action. You'll no longer need to pay any goods for them. The right group has 3 houses. Moving the first one helps you when you take the produce goods action. Now you'll get to take 1 additional good of a single type you produced. The second house doesn't give you anything new. The third house will give you 1 more good of each type you produced. Remember to observe your warehouse limits on storing goods though. The minister's main noble action lets you take a decree. The decree cards that are face up along the edge of the game board are the ones available to choose from. All of them will reward you with in-game points depending on their scoring criteria. When you take the action, simply take whichever decree card you want from those available. Place it face up next to your board. If you placed one of your rubble marker cubes out on the marquee, you are allowed now to spend 1 of them in order to take a second decree card. You can have as many decrees as you want and only score them. Other players may always request to see what you've collected. The King's Noble action lets you open a public building in the city. These are the ones that allow you to score more points when anyone opens a storefront. You must have an architect plan in order to build these. You must use a green plan for a green public building and a blue plan for a blue public building. You can only choose from one of the 2 available on the game board. The plan you use will show a number of state officials required in the noble offices and plazas. First, choose a construction site at the north, west, or east side of downtown. Remove both rubble cubes and place them on your player board. You will get to gain the reward depicted in the space you're placing the public building. Use one of your incomplete plan tiles and take the matching color public building tile and place it on the site you chose. Don't flip it over. Depending on the number of officials shown on the plan you used, you must remove that many of your officials from the nobles' offices and/or plazas and put them back on your portfolio board. If you don't have enough of your own, you may pay money to hire the rest. Now flip the used plan over and put it in your completed plan stack on your board. Whenever a new public building opens, all stores along its row or column will immediately score if they match the color showing. The owner of the stores get to score the points shown on the large scoring tile at the bottom of their column. Now move the top public building tile from the stack to the newly empty space, now making it available. If you didn't have enough officials to remove from the nobles area when building this tile, you can hire them. The cost of each official is equal to the amount shown to the right of the treasury marker. The last action you can take on your turn is to sponsor an event. This action lets you play a treasury card from your hand to the royal court on the board, paying the race equal to the treasury's current value, shown to the right of the marker. Once paid, you gain the action or reward shown in the center of the treasury card. That covers all the 4 main actions you can choose to take on your turn. other than of course taking 1 gold from the supply. After you've done your action, choose and take any face-up political card from the game board to your hand. You should always end your turn drawing back up to 5 cards. Unless the stack is emptied, each turn you'll get to take a new treasury card or noble card of your choice. Additionally, you'll have some game board upkeep to do depending on what you did on your turn. First, flip the top card of the political deck you just took from to reveal the next replacement if there is one. Next, refill building tiles to the city tile display to the right of the map. Refill any empty clergy tile spaces from the church track. Draw them randomly from the clergy tile bag. Refill the decrees from the deck so that 8 cards are face up. Discard any spent goods tokens from the noble's state actions back to the supply. There are 2 ways that the first time period ends. First is if any player has completed 2 sets of rubble on their portfolio board, or if 3 of the 4 political card decks are emptied. If either of these happen, the active player finishes their turn and then proceed to the end of period steps. First, discard all remaining cards in the display. For each set of rubble cubes a player has, they score 3 wigs. Any ship cards still remaining in the shipyard space should be discarded, then replaced with the brown and purple ship cards. Purple should be on top. Don't forget, you may have to remove some from each color depending on your player count. In 3-player games, remove 1, 2-player games, remove 2. The removed ship cards should return to the box. Starting with the player who triggered the end of the period and going clockwise, each player has the opportunity to discard any of their cards from their hand and draw back up to a 5-card hand with the purple political cards. For the discarded nobles, each player earns the reward at the bottom of 1 of each type of noble you've discarded. You get to ignore any penalties. Now separate the brown deck of cards into their 4 like stacks and shuffle each. Place the stacks on the display like the beginning of the game, face down. Then flip over the top card of each deck. Now do one final check to see if the church track or decrees need to be refilled. Refill both if needed, then continue playing starting with the next player clockwise. Triggering the end of the game happens much the same as triggering the end of the first time period. Either one player has completed 4 sets of rubble, or 3 of the 4 political card decks in the display are empty. This time, however, finish the entire round so all players have had equal turns. Now everyone gets to play one final round and proceed to endgame scoring. The game board has this small section in the corner to assist with scoring everything at the end of the game. You can put an unused rubble cube or good token on each icon after you score it. First, each player earns wigs equal to the sum of all their ship's hull sizes. Next, each completed set of rubble cubes earns 3 points. Now, whoever has the most stores in the city earns wigs based on the score chart in the rulebook. If tied, add the tied places and divide the points among all tied players rounded down. Next, everyone cashes out any influence for money. Don't move the influence markers. From your remaining money, you'll get 1 wig for every 5 wraiths rounded down. Each player can now score all their collected decree cards. Remember, only the player who collected it gets to score it. Next, each player should count how many officials they put to work through completing architect plans. Look through your completed plans pile and count the officials shown. Players earn wigs according to this point chart in the rulebook. If you didn't complete any plans, you cannot earn wigs. If tied, add the tied places and divide the points among all tied players rounded down. Lastly, each player gains 2 wigs for each royal favor tile they still have on their board. The player with the most wigs wins the game. If there's a tie, the winner will be the player with the most sets of rubble. If still tied, then the player with the most stores. Then by most completed plans, then by the player with the most money. Just for reference, there are a few changes to a 2-player game that affect setup and a few other things. During setup, place 1 official from an unused color into any space of each of the 3 nobles' offices. They never move and always count as opponents' meeples when determining influence costs. Lisboa comes with a 2-player overlay that goes over row E. Place that on the city board. When drawing and filling up the 8 available decree cards during the game, remove any that come out if they have this 2-player icon on them. Return them to the box and draw replacements. When simulating the earthquake during setup, skip placing rubble cubes at either end of row E, including the public building sites. Also, don't create a rubble pile. Remove any extra cubes back to the box. When scoring at the end of the game for most stores owned on the map, refer to the same point chart as before, However, only use the most and third most positions for scoring them. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. Check the video description for links to Big Viking Mats, Board Game Geek, Top Shelf Gamer for token upgrades, and SleeveKings.com for a 10% off coupon on card sleeves, plus Mr. Meeple t-shirts for cool board gaming shirts. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.